All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Um, we're going to be going over our Phase 7 rollouts today. Joining you today is myself, Victoria Anderson, as well as Cheryl Clapp and Greg Johnson, who are going to be heading our questions window and our Q&A as well. All of our sessions are recorded and placed out on our help desk, as well as more help documents. So please check your email for all of our documented changes, which come out in the release notes. But if you're not finding what you need or you're not getting release notes, please reach out to support by submitting a ticket. You are going to be muted for the presentation, so please enter your questions into the questions window or save them to the end for our Q&A. With all that being said, we are going to go ahead and jump right into the demos. We have a bunch of new features and enhancements we're going to be going to do demos for today, including some enhancements to itemization fields and logic blocks, a new account attorney alert. We've also added some additional email demographic information to the email table. And we've also made some enhancements for processing mail returns, made some improvements to payment and post-dated payment workflows, and we've also made some changes to credit reporting criteria for validation notices. So first, we're going to start off with a quick one. We've made some enhancements to some itemization fields within logic blocks, so we're going to go check that out first. We're going to go to workflow and logic blocks. And I have a little sample logic block set up. So this one is specifically for itemization date source. So I'm going to go ahead and click on our little sample logic block here. And you'll notice that when you use the field, when you add account itemization date source, before this enhancement, you were only able to select one date source to be in your statement. But now here in your statement, you'll be able to select from multiple date source options to include in your logic statement. So that was a quick, easy one to show. Now we're going to go spend some time on accounts. So first step, we're going to look at our new account attorney notification feature, which displays a pill on the summary section on an account when a consumer has an attorney listed. But before we go look at the account, let's actually go review where account attorneys are created. And that's going to be under our legal setup menu. So we're going to go to setup and then legal. And then this first one up here, you'll notice we have account attorneys. So this is the area where you'll go set up account attorneys. If you need to create a brand new one, you can use this new button here. And all of these profiles that I have set up here are what's going to be listed as options on the account page that you can select from a drop-down menu. When you click into the, looks like some fungus going on there. When you click on one of these accounts here, you'll be able to enter in basic information like you see in the header here. So first name, address, just some basic demographic information. So let's go to an account and we will check out where the account attorney field is on the account and also what the pill looks like. Let's go to our sample account here. All right, and you'll notice that this account does have an account attorney on it. You'll see the blinking pill here. And the account attorney field where you can select is going to be in this debt information section here. For me in my sample portal here, it's going to be this guy, account attorney. And you'll see that I have all my sample account attorneys listed here that have profiles set up. And this green plus button is where you can go and create a new account attorney from the account page. So maybe you're on the phone with the consumer and you want to take some information down for a new account attorney. You don't see it in your list here. You can go ahead and create a new profile from here. And since we're on an account, we can look at the new additions to our email demographic options. So let's go check out a sample email that I have. I'm just going to go right to the demographic from the summary section and click on a sample email address that I have here, email addresses. All right, and in this top section here, we have a handful of new fields, one of which is going to be the demographic type. So this consumer happens to be my primary, but you also have a way to identify what demographic is on this email address. And we also have location type. This one is currently set to unknown. But what's cool about this field is that if the email address has an at host name like Gmail or Yahoo, it's going to default the location type to personal rather than unknown or work. If you would like a list of all the email host names which are defaulted to personal, go check out our release notes. We have them all listed there. And then last is the source, which is going to be where the email address came from. So did your client provide it? Did it come from an enrichment vendor or perhaps one of your agents doing skip tracing? All of these fields can be manually entered like I've shown here, but they all can be loaded via ETL as well. All right, so let's go check out some enhancements that we've made for processing mail returns. So we can get there just from this account here. We're gonna go to our letter actions and view some letters. You'll see that I have a lot here. I do a lot of monkeying around on this account, so bear with me. We're just gonna go right into this first letter here. So to explain a little bit what's going on this letter, so you have some basic information here at the top. So what letter was sent, the sent date, what type of letter it is. So this one was a bundle group letter, and it was sent to our primary. We also have some cool stuff down here in this address section, like what account numbers this was sent to, and because this is a bundle group letter, we have the exact bundle group that it was sent to. But there are also some other great things on here that you can help process your mail returns with. And that's going to be some of this fields up here in this top section. So say this letter got returned for this consumer, and make some updates. Excuse me, my headphones are acting up. Okay. All right, so first things first, let's go ahead and change our set status to be returned. And let's say our return reason, let's say we've got a forwarding address for this consumer. And we'll go ahead and mark the return date as today. So now that we have marked this letter as being returned, one great thing that you can do in this bottom section is if you get a new forwarding address, you can just go ahead and update the new primary demographics mailing address right from here instead of having to go back out to a new screen. So let's go ahead and change this address. So say instead of this went to 123 Main Street, let's say we went to Elm Street here. Oops, don't want to get rid of the whole thing. We'll change the number here so it's easy. We'll go 456 Elm Street. And we'll get rid of the suite. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and click apply because I want to show you some things that occur on this page. Okay, so what's cool about this is we have an updated address, but you'll see here on the right-hand side, we have the uncorrected address, which is going to be our original address of 123 Main Street. And then we have our updated address here. And not only is it going to update it here, but it'll also update the demographic. So when we bump open our summary section here, you'll see that our primary demographic has our new 456 Elm Street address instead of the 123 Main Street. So hopefully that'll make some things easier for you guys when you're processing your mail returns. One thing that is important to note, though, is that this by updating the address here, you're not resending or scheduling the letter that was returned. We're expecting that your vendor will provide the forwarding address and forward the letter for you. This is more of updating the information here you have for this specific letter. All right, so next up, we're going to go ahead and look at some post-dated payment workflow that we've updated within the secure payment destinations. So we're going to go ahead and go to our payment destinations here, going to go to Setup, Transactions, and Payment Destinations. And I have a sample credit card vendor setup that we're going to be using today. And this is, remember, is for our secure payment destinations, so credit card and ACH. So this section up here is going to look really familiar. But our new sections down here are going to be this payment reminders and payment receipt section. So we're going to review these first, and then we'll go take a peek at an account afterwards. So this first field here in this payment reminder section, send payment reminders, this is going to be just a Boolean here, and that's your on-off button for this section. So if you want this to be off and not regard any of the things you put in here, you want to make sure that's unchecked. This next field, number of days prior, this is how many days in advance or prior to the next payment you'd like the payment reminder to be sent to your consumer. The next is the minimum number of days. This is the number of days which must pass after the payment plan is set up to send that first reminder. So if you set up your payment reminder, if you set up your payment plan today, then your payment reminder will go out in 5 days. Then next is we're going to look at some fields here that are your options for your communication options for sending the payment reminder. So we have our letter, email, and text messaging here, and you'll see that for our letter profile, we have a vendor that you can select. So you can choose how you'd like your letter to be communicated. And you'll notice that I don't have all of these filled out, which will will make more sense a little bit later once we go look at an account here. Next, on to the payment receipt section. Our first field here, send payment receipts, very similar to it's the exact same as the section here. It's just your on-off button for this section. And then we have the options for sending your payment receipts. So whether that's going to be a letter, email, or text message. If you have multiple channels, like I have here set up to send the post-dated letter like I do here, ACE is going to look at the primary demographics preferred contact method to send the post-dated notice or receipt with that method. And if you don't have a preferred contact method set on the consumer, you will determine the method of contact in the payment plan or the payment screen. So we're going to go take a look at each of those fields and show you where those are at. So we're going to go back to our sample account here that I've got open. And the preferred contact method is going to be within the demographics. So I'm going to just jump there using the summary section here by clicking on the name. And you'll notice right up here in the demographic section, I have the preferred contact method, and for this consumer is going to be email. So if you don't have your preferred contact method, the other option for selecting which option you can send your payment receipts and reminders is going to be through the payment plan and payment screen. So let's go to the payment plan screen here. And what's important to note is that this is only for our secure options. So you need to make sure that you either have credit card or ACH selected here, or else it's not going to appear since we're doing post-dated letters. Okay, so what's important to note is that within this preferred contact method here, since we have our credit card type selected, it's only going to show the preferred contact methods that we have set up in that payment destination. So if you remember, there are 3 options set up in our payment destination currently, which is going to be letter, email, and text. So I didn't have any options for text set up in the payment destination, so it's only going to offer the ones that I have set up here. We also have the same in the post-transaction screen, so we can go ahead and go there. Let's scroll on down, and you'll notice that we also have preferred contact method in the single payment screen as well. This workflow is meant to be a replacement for current workflows using triggers and action paths. So if we have these settings on in the payment destination and your current workflow is active, your consumers will be receiving 2 post-dated letters or receipts. So if you need help setting this up and making sure that everything's working right, please feel free to reach out to support if you need assistance setting up this new feature. And now that we're here in the payment screen, it's a perfect segue to another feature that you'll notice here in the payment screen, and that's the update primary demographic field that we have right here. Update primary demographic. So currently the primary demographic address is going to show up here, the current one. You'll see that we have 456 Elm Street, which we just inputted in here. But you also have the option that when your consumer is giving you their credit card information or ACH information, and they give you a new billing address, you have the option to go ahead and update the primary demographic from this screen. So it'll save you a step of having to go back to the demographic to update things there. You can just do it right here from the payment screen. So let's go ahead and post a payment on this account and update the primary demographic. I'm going to enter in some phony information here. And let's bump that out, and let's see. Been on a tree theme kick lately, so we'll change from elm to cedar. And let's go ahead and change the state. Oops, don't want Ohio. All right, and you want to make sure that once you got your address in that you check this update primary demographic box to true. Let's get some payment information in here. We'll need that. Let's do $100. All right, everything looks good there. Let's go ahead and click apply. All right, so now we can bump open our summary section here. And we have our new updated primary demographic address. Lastly, I wanted to talk about some behind the scenes changes we've made to credit reporting. This is only going to occur for those clients that have the obey compliance rules on in the client profile, and we're going to review the location of this field after I go over some key points of the changes we've made with credit reporting. So consumers will be excluded from credit reporting if the validation notice has not been sent to the primary graphic for the account. Consumers will be excluded from credit reporting if the validation notice was sent but also identified as returned prior to the credit reporting. Or consumers will be excluded from credit reporting if the validation notice was sent less than 15 days prior to credit reporting. What's important to know is that some accounts are not going to be impacted by this change, and those are going to be accounts that have already been credit reported, accounts with a client delinquency date prior to November 30th, 2021. If you are not recording the delinquency date, ACE will refer back to the assigned date. And clients which have the obey compliance rules off will also not be impacted by this change. So before we jump into our wrap up here, let's go review where that obey compliance rules on off is in the client profile. So let's go to our sample client here. We're going to go to clients and profiles and sample client 1. And this field is located in the preferences section. And it's going to be this guy right here, obey compliance rules. So currently for this client, it is on, which means that accounts under this client are going to be impacted by the changes we've made to credit reporting. All right, so we're going to have plenty of time to address any comments, questions, or concerns or feedback during our Q&A regarding this change of credit reporting. So we're going to do that next. But before we jump into that, I do want to announce some expected Phase 8 releases. So we have some remaining features here that we expect to roll out over the next several months, which are going to be firewall restrictions for campaign files, model validation notice, email template, more updates to credit reporting for grouping on service date. We're expecting some more account attorney additions, some more 7 and 7 override options, a quick set in window enhancement, and an addition to the account screen for a validation notice given checkbox. So those are some things to look forward to. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into our Q&A. I'm going to unmute you all Just a reminder that you are double muted, so even though I unmute you, you will likely need to unmute yourself to be able to speak. In your window on your webinar here, there's a little microphone icon up at the very top that kind of sticks out, and that will unmute you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute the group here. Let's see. Unmute. Okay, looks like you are all unmuted, so if you would like to speak, just make sure you unmute yourself again. All right, do we have any questions for Greg and Cheryl?
I've got a couple.
Yeah.
So in going back to the payment destination screen where you were setting up the reminders and receipts.
Yeah. All right, let me get to my credit card here. All right.
All right, so I just want to make sure I understand correctly. So looking at the reminders, if we set up an email profile in HTML, and obviously we prefer that it goes out via email, we set that up here, but we also set up the letter profile if we don't have an email. And then when we're actually taking the payment, if we select email, it'll send the HTML. If we select letter, it'll send it through the snail mail from what we've selected. What if they select email, but there's a problem with the email getting delivered? Will it back up and then send a regular mail?
That's a good question. I'm not sure that it would do that. So we'll need to take a look. If there's a failure, is what you're asking, if there's a failure on email, or if there's no email address, it would go to the next method that you have set up here, I believe. But if you're actually saying if it actually failed.
Yeah, and I think more importantly, I'm wondering how this plays in to ELS, because my understanding currently, before these updates, is that if we have a letter profile where we have clicked the ELS box, then no matter what vendor we choose, if they're opted in, it's going via email no matter what. So
Yep.
which one overrides the other?
Yeah, I think that yeah, we'll have to work through those, but I think if the consumer had a different preference, it would go with their preference. But if you're using a letter profile that has ELS set up for that email, I haven't tested that to be sure. I would think that if you had email turned off, it would still go via email. Go ahead, Greg.
Sorry, can you repeat that, Cheryl? I was responding.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the question here on this one is, it has to do with, so where we're looking at this, and you've got a letter profile, and then you've got an email profile, say for a payment reminder. If the letter profile is pointed to a letter profile that has ELS set up, right? So let's say you didn't check email profile here at all, but the letter profile has an ELS email or ELS attachment, either one, ELS set up with the profile, would it still default to the email associated with that letter profile?
That is a excellent question. I would say at this point, yes, it would. So you need to make sure to disable ELS for that particular letter type.
Yeah, if you don't want it to go via email. But if you do, basically you've got two methods to hit it via email. But I would use one or the other, not both.
Yeah,
right?
and the question, yep, and the previous question too, I guess the follow-up was, if the email fails, will it fall back on letter? The answer is no. We currently don't really have any way to know if the email fails. We know that it gets sent out, but we don't know, we don't have a method to track those yet. That's coming in the future, so that we could perhaps have a trigger in the event and fall back on those other letter types.
Okay, I do have a second question regarding to the credit reporting. How is the system determining that when we run the credit bureau export and it's going through all of its logic, what is the logic it's using to determine that the validation notice was sent or not? Is it looking at, last letter sent, or is it looking that a validation date is populated
It's,
in that field?
yeah, yeah. So if you have a letter that is a validation notice type,
Mhm.
then on the account, the validation notice would be that's what stores that date. So it is that
Okay.
date. It's
But is
looking
the
at the
credit
account.
bureau logic looking at letter type, or is it looking at the date field?
It's looking at the date field.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you very much. That's what I needed.
Yeah, just to go over the rules again, because I think it's important, right? It's any account that has been, client delinquency date or assigned date is greater than, you know, greater than or equal to December 1st. So any of the old accounts that you may have in the pipeline, will not go through that check, as well as any, this is only for brand new accounts being placed at the credit bureau, so nothing old goes through that check. And the validation notice has to be at least 15 days old before it gets sent. What else am I missing, Cheryl? Oh yeah, and that there's no validation return on the account.
Right. Yep. And if for anyone who wants to review those, because that can be a little bit confusing, they are listed in the release notes as well. And they've been listed a couple times in the release notes because we're concerned that people understand exactly what those parameters and those rules are around the credit reporting piece. So that is listed, and there was an update to that. If you only read the first one and not the update actually mentions the bits about the client delinquency report or the assigned date prior to those will not be impacted by the change. Good questions all. Anybody else have any?
I hate to make you go back because I know you already did it, but my cohort and I had technical delays with the webinar launching, and we did not get in until you were just wrapping up with that first part on the mail returns and corrective addresses.
Mhm.
If there's no questions and you have time, could you revisit that?
Sure. Let's see, the mail returns.
Thank you so much. We missed about the first 5 minutes because it was just spinning and spinning.
Oh, that's a bummer. Okay, so do you guys see the tail end of the mail return stuff?
Just as you were wrapping up.
Okay, so the first two things were pretty quick, so yeah, we can go back over those. The first is a enhancement to the itemization date fields that are in the itemization date source for the itemization date source logic. So in your logic blocks here, I have a sample itemization date source logic block here that we can take a peek at. So for this one field specifically, account itemization date source, before you were only able to select one date source in your logic statement. Now you have the ability to choose any of the ones that you want to choose from. So there's one update there. That was a quick one. And then the next is going to be the new account attorney notification feature. So now when you have an account attorney listed on the account and your consumer has representation, you're going to have a pill in the summary section to notify your agents that this consumer has representation. So first we went and reviewed where you set up the account attorneys, which are going to be under the setup legal account attorneys section here. And this is where you're going to want to set up the profiles of all the account attorneys. In these are just going to be some basic information like address, phone number, just basic demographic stuff. And you can add new ones here. There's also a spot that you can add an attorney right from the account. But once you have this here and you have an account that has an attorney, so we can go to this account that I have open. And you'll notice up here in the summary section, this blinking pill says account attorney. So this consumer has representation. And where this is noted is in the debt information section here. So here in the debt information section, right, for me, this is going to be right here, account attorney. And this is, you're going to have all those profiles that we have set up listed here in this section. And this little green plus sign here, create new, if you're on the phone with your consumer and they're giving you information about their attorney, you can go ahead and click this new button and get that information in there. So once they have an account attorney selected on the account, every time you come to this view account area, you're going to have that pill show up. So everyone knows that there's an account attorney present. And then next up, we saw the new additions to email demographic options. So in our email table here, let's go to our email. We're going to go to our demographic here. And let me get to a sample address here in my demographic. We have a few fields here that are new, one of which is going to be our demographic type up here at the top, so we can identify who the email belongs to. So in this case, it's going to be our primary, but we also have a bunch of others in here. And then we have location type, and this one is currently set to unknown because our host here is just at sample. But what's special about this is that if the address that you have on this demographic has an host name like at Gmail or at Yahoo, ACE is going to default the location type to personal. And we actually have a list of all of these which are going to be defaulted to personal in our release notes. So you can go check that out for all the host names that will default to personal. And then the last field on here is going to be source. And this is just where you got the email address from. So did it come from your client? Did it come from your enrichment vendor? Or did one of your agents skip trace it, etc.? So you can go ahead and log that there. All of these can obviously be manual entered, but you can load these through ETL as well. And then this is probably where you started to come back in, which is where we saw some enhancements for the mail returns. So within our letter actions here, I'm just going to pull up a letter. Let's see, let me go into another one because you actually might be able to redo what I showed. So here's another letter on the account that I had sent. Up in this letter section here, we just have our basic information like what letter it is, the letter type, etc. And then with this bundle group key, you can actually see what bundle group this letter was sent to, which is pretty cool. But where our feature revolves around our enhancement is processing the letter return specifically. So pretend that this letter is going to be returned for this consumer, and we can go ahead and update the set status to returned and set a return reason. So maybe they have a new forwarding address, and our return date we can send to today. What's cool about this is when you're going to be processing these, instead of having to go to another screen to update the forwarding address, you can do it right here instead. And it's just going to update your demographic directly from here. So this letter was sent to 123 Main Street. So we can update this to, let's do Oak Street, continuing my tree theme here. Get rid of the suite and let's change the city so it's a little bit more obvious. Let's do Portland. Portland, Tennessee. Let's go to Oregon here. All right, so I'm going to hit apply because there are some things that occur on this screen that I want you to see. Go ahead and click apply here. So what's cool about this is it's going to show you the updated address on the sent to, and then we have our uncorrected address here, so the original, which will update the new, it'll insert the new address to the demographic. So we'll get to see that up here in the summary section. Is that right about where we left off when you got in?
Pretty much.
Okay.
I think when we came in, it said corrected address down here in the screen somewhere.
Okay.
But my question, because we process our mail returns via a loader, processing the file we get back. Would we need to make any changes to where new addresses are mapping in that loader? Is there anything you could think we'd need to change on that?
We have some work coming up and to be able to load those sent status and the return. Basically, there will be some loader changes that will help you if you want to incorporate some of this
Okay,
into
so I
your
should
loader.
hold off on making any changes to my mail return loader until you put everything
Yep.
out that you're going to put out?
Yep.
Okay.
There should be something coming. Yep. I
Thank-
believe that's next release, but I can't swear to it. I know it's coming up.
Thanks for the heads up.
Yep, and then also we do have a new letter type too. I don't know if we got that covered. That's an account attorney letter type, just so you can track any of that correspondence and you know, that's to the consumer's attorney.
I want to address one of Rosie's questions, and Greg, you might make sure I'm on the right track here. But the quick opt-in for email on the account page will impact ELS and email. If I'm wrong about that, Greg, give me a shout out. But I believe that will affect both. But that, Rosie, that's a good request about some way to quick opt-in email from the payment page. So we'll make a note of that. Okay.
Yeah, no, it'll that should quick opt in your email address on the payment page.
Oh, can you, Victoria, can you pull up the payment page real quick?
Yeah.
Just to post and then grab that credit card. Okay, it's already there. Okay, so there's a preferred contact method. Oh, there it is. So it is there. Opt-in email, but okay, so it is already there, Rosie. If you hover over the email question mark there, yeah, there you go, opt-in. Yep. So that'll do the same thing that the quick opt-in will. It'll send them an email while the agent is on the line with the consumer, and they can go ahead and approve it right away before they finish posting the payment. Greg, just to be sure, so if they're doing that, is there any kind of lag time they need to be concerned about before they finish the payment in terms of making sure that the payment receipt goes to the email that's getting opted in? I know that's,
Nope.
I'm thinking that's probably what Rosie was kind of thinking about.
Yeah, so. No, it's as soon as it's going to opt them in and send the email off.
Okay, excellent. There you go.
All right, do we have any more questions? All right, if we have no more questions, we can go ahead and wrap up for the day. Just a reminder that all of our sessions are recorded and put onto our help desk for you to view. So if you have any other questions and you think of them later, please reach out to support and look for that recording. Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Victoria.
Thank you.